2023-24 was meant to be rough for Tottenham Hotspur. At last, Harry Kane was to leave the club, and while he was not heading to a rival, it still hurt. A homegrown superstar accepting that he had to choose between his boyhood side and trophies. And it wasn't hard to understand the fuss. As well as scoring and assisting 47% of Spurs' league goals in the 22-23 campaign, Kane was a consistent presence in their rise from mediocrity to the edge of the elite, appearing in 89% of the club's Premier League fixtures since he broke into the team all the way back in 2014. Coupled with the big gamble on Ange Postecoglou, this seismic change had many pundits writing the club off before pre-season even began. Gary Neville predicted an 8th place finish in 2024, Michael Owen said 9th, and Paul Merson even suggested a spot in the bottom half could be on the cards, bringing a sense of gloom to White Hart Lane, not helped by a dodgy pre-season, which saw 2 fixtures cancelled and losses to West Ham and Barcelona. With 3 managers in and out since the club's visit to a Champions League final in 2019, expectations were low for the first time in nearly half a decade. And for all the negativity, the Australian still had the same squad which enjoyed the club's best ever start to a Premier League campaign last season, as well as Maddison, Van de Ven and Udogie all arriving. And given how poor Bissouma and Richarlison were last year, plus Kulusevski's patchy fitness and Son's yo-yo form, there was scope for optimism if you could ignore the Kane-shaped hole. It's been far from perfect, but after a month of the season, the North Londoners have beaten Manchester United and are already on their path to being an exciting ball-dominant and optimistic team after years of dreary sufferball under Jose, Nuno and Conte. But just what has Postecoglou changed? On today's Explained, we find out. No one signing can turn a team from bad to good, and there are just a handful of players in the world who could fill Kane's boots, none of them available to Tottenham. But the central success of the club's off-season was the capture of James Maddison, a peak-age homegrown star in a major position of need, coming off the best individual campaign of his career. And at just £46 million and in the face of competition from Newcastle, getting the 26-year-old was a coup. It also allowed a vital change of setup. The lack of a true number 10 in the squad since the loss and decline of Eriksen and Ali, plus hiring Nuno Espirito Santo and Antonio Conte, meant the squad naturally lent itself to a back 3 formation. In that setup, you're essentially trading an attacking presence from midfield for an attacking presence from fullback. But while Pedro Porro was deceptively good after his January switch to North London, putting up 6 goals and assists in 13 starts, or 1 at every 189 minutes, close to Son's 1 every 181, the rotating cast of Perisic, Sessegnon, Royal and Doherty simply didn't produce the goods. Perisic may have ended up with 8 assists, but the team's wider issues were clear. 6 teams produced more expected goals and more shots than the Lily-Whites last season, and they were exceptionally reliant on crosses, with the most in the league and close to a third of their successful passes into the penalty area being balls swung in from wide, compared to 19% for Liverpool, 14% for Manchester City and 13.5% for Arsenal. Last year, they attacked in a way no good side does, and it was only the sheer presence of Kane and Son that really made it work, the two combining for 32% of all of Spurs' touches in the area. So a 10 was a necessary addition, and Maddison is the perfect one. Just 9 Premier League players created more chances than him last year, and only 5 players had more expected assists than him, the Englishman topping Odegaard, Kane, Grealish and Salah in the latter metric. On top of that, he was a goal threat himself, putting up nearly 7 expected goals across the year, more than Kevin De Bruyne, and he did this all in a relegated team, either taking or creating 37% of all of Leicester's attempts on goal. It was a staggering individual performance. Obviously, it's early days for him in London, but the returns so far are excellent. Maddison is taking close to 3 shots per 90, placing in the top 13% of midfielders and wingers, and he's the heart of the club's attacking play, with only Van de Ven and Bissouma more frequently sought out by teammates, while he picked up 2 Man of the Match awards in his first 3 appearances. And he's been helped by Postecoglou's desire to commit men forwards. Last season, Spurs averaged just 2.5 players in the box when a shot was taken. But when Maddison got his first goal for Tottenham, there were 4, and 3 more in the final third. If you watch the highlights of the win over Manchester United, you'll regularly see between 5 and 7 white shirts getting in the area. That's also helped the side dominate territory. Last year, game control was a huge concern, with only Forest, Bournemouth, Brentford and Wolves spending more time in their own third than Spurs, and only the first 2 of those spending less time in the opposition third. Spurs overall had 49.8% possession, 9th in the division, yet 8 teams scored more counter-attacking goals. It wasn't a plan, it was a failure. It also didn't fit the talent. With players recruited from sides like Atalanta, Brighton, Juventus and Sporting, Spurs are full of guys who want to hold on to the ball, and that aligns with Ange's own desires. So to get more possession, he's dialed up the final third press. In 2022-23, Tottenham were 14th for passes per defensive action, disrupting opposition play only as often as Fulham. But this year, with the caveat that it's very early days, they're 4th, just behind Brighton, Arsenal and Chelsea. With more guys around the box, it's easier to counter-press aggressively when a move breaks down, and only Manchester United, Everton and Brighton have turned possession over more in the final third. As a result, Tottenham have become better at pinning teams down and have the ball over 60% of the time, getting them in touching distance of City, Arsenal and Brighton. Just take a look at the analyst's map for their control in blue versus opponents' control in red. In short, that should be enough to grind down most of the poorer clubs in the division. Still just 27, the Malian's role as a lone six puts him on the ball constantly, but also makes him the first line of defence when opponents manage to break out from Spurs' forward press. And despite starting just 10 league fixtures last year, he's risen to the challenge set by Ange, looking as sharp as he did at Brighton. At present, Bissouma ranks top of the league for tackles and interceptions with over 7 per 90, as well as making the top 20 for ball recoveries. But he's also vital in pushing the team forward, sitting 18th among all Premier League players for progressive passes, putting up over a third of his entire output from last year over the first 3 weeks of 2023-24. Of course, there are risks to this new look system. Spurs are playing a much higher line than last year, and any drop in form or injury to Bissouma could see things break down horrendously. After the midfielder, Romero and Van de Ven are both in the top 4 Tottenham players for defensive actions, joined weirdly by Kulusevski. And as a general rule, putting your centre-backs in a position where they have to make big plays tends to result in mistakes, big chances conceded and red cards. Against stronger sides, it could be a worry, as in the United game where the team was lucky to keep a clean sheet after giving up 2.5 expected goals. And in fact, 10 sides have allowed fewer attempts on goal this season so far than Tottenham. Right now, they're leaving themselves open in the process of creating their own chances. That will need time, tactics and possibly new personnel to fix. But if Porro and Udogie can improve from the 50% tackle success rate they're currently managing, that will make the flanks far less vulnerable and give the centre-halves less to do. Depth is clearly a problem as well. Bissouma, Maddison, Van de Ven and Romero are all key contributors and have little backup on the bench. But on the plus side, the early exit from the EFL Cup and lack of European ball means that even if Spurs reach the final of the FA Cup, they'll play a maximum of 45 games this season. With a bit of luck, Postecoglou can run out a consistent lineup for most of the year and go into next summer with stronger relationships between the players and a clearer idea of what he needs to evolve the side. But things are looking up. With his likeable and straightforward attitude in the press and attractive football on the pitch, Postecoglou has done the first part of his job, buying himself time to work. And just like with Pochettino, if results are good enough to get the boss through his first year, Spurs fans might just find that the ceiling on this team is considerably higher than they dared to dream. So that was our look at how Ange Postecoglou has revolutionised Spurs so far. For Spurs fans, we want to hear from you. How excited are you with the Australian at the helm? Let us know in the comments down below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, smash the like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to Football Daily so you never miss any of our content. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.